Welcome all the delegates for the second session for the day 4 of the FDP sponsored by uh, ACT and Atal. It's giving me a very immense pleasure to introduce to you the one and only Professor Rupinder Singh Hoop. He is acclaimed globally for his scientific research. And if you talk about QBD optimization, he is the epitome of these all. So he's especially in the area of systematic development of novel and nanostructured drug delivery system using QBD paradigm and advanced pharmacokinetic modeling. Uh, it's really a great pleasure that he has contributing into the science and the pharmaceutical sciences since last 37 years. He has, to his credit, more than 400 original publications, including 15 books with the prestigious international publishers, 71 book chapters, H index close to 50, and citation more than 10,000. Several thousand of industrial scientists from the leading pharmaceutical industries like Mylan, Zydus, Ranbaxy, Cipla, Cadila, Santis, Sun Pharma, Ipca, Glenmark, Sanofi, Ajanta, Alchem, and so many. Means I can say every pharmaceutical company or emerging pharmaceutical company, the people associated or the scientists associated with them have been purely trained by Professor Upinder Singh Bhoop on QBD, biowaiver, and nanomedicine. He has guided over hundreds of research scholars, which include 31 PhD, 6 postdoc fellow. He has completed 6 industrial consultancy assignments. He has 6 patents, 2 technology transfers based on nanotechnology. He has earned a research grant of more than 7 crore from government as well as corporate sector. His work has touched various awards accolades like Leading Educator by UK, Pharma Buzz Personality of the Year, Shiksha Ratan Puraskar, Innovative Scientist Award, QBD and Product Performance Award, twice by American Association of Pharmaceutical Sciences, QBD Excellence Award by CPHI Asia, Outstanding Scientist Award by Select Bio United Kingdom, Pharma QBD Outstanding Performance Award. Statis, the one who is started the design expert, the APTI Best Pharmacy Teacher. Uh, Despite being so much into the research, Professor Bhoop has also contributing towards the university upliftment. He is the former chairman of University Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. He is the one of the leading person who has contributed the UIPS to become number 2 in the country in NRF ranking. He is a fellow and mentor of the University Senate and Syndicate. He is a Dean Pharmaceutical Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Dean Alumni Relation. He is currently coordinating the UGC Center for Advanced Studies in Pharmaceutical Sciences. He is a founder coordinator for National UGC Center for Excellence in Nanobiomedicals and Applications. On the basis of his exemplary accomplishment, uh, 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 our Vice President, Shri Hamid Ansari, uh, has and Professor V. Due to his exemplary accomplishments, he has been awarded, confirmed with the honorary fellowship of the Punjab University in 2011, Punjab Academy of Science in 2017, and then IPA in 2018. With these few words, a lot can be said about Professor Group, but with these few words, I want to keep a gap between you and the Professor Group, and now I welcome Professor Group to provide guide and enlighten us on the topic.
Thank you very much, Dr.
So thank
Ahmed.
you. Hello.
Yeah, okay.
And talk
Should
will
I
be on
start
the being
presenting?
proficient pharmaceutical researcher, maladies, and the remedies for the ethical publication. So over to you, sir. Now the audience is good for you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Can you see, the presentation part?
Yes, 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 yes. It's visible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amit, for very nice and elaborate introduction. And I must compliment Dr. Ashish, Dr. Amit, and Dr. Uttam, and all the coterie at Maharaja Ranjit Singh Technical University, Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, in organizing such meaningful webinars and training sessions for the young faculty on familiarizing them with the updates in the profession and the related sciences. In fact, on the invitation of Dr. Ashish, I shared a few titles with him on nanoparticulate drug delivery, lipid base, and crossing, various unimpregnable barriers using various nanostructured systems uh, and quality by these. And but he preferred me to talk on the topic of ethical publishing because this is the need of the hour to acquaint the young faculty participants on the contemporary issues. So that's why, I'm confronting you on a very useful topic for which we are not unambiguous. We are conversant, but may not be to that an extent, as I will let you familiarize further, the current updates, on being a proficient pharmaceutical researcher. What is the role of ethical publishing? Uh, Somehow, I am unable to move further.
No, no problem, sir. You take your time.
In fact, there is some issue. I'm unable to. I think I'll have to share it again once again.
Yes, sir. You can
Stop
close and
share
share it.
and then share again.
Yes, yes.
Share again. Mute participant share screen. Okay. Please bear. Okay. Okay. Uh, is it visible? No,
Not
not yet. No?
now.
Okay. I'll have to. Okay. Just a minute.
Yes.
There was some technical issue. Okay. I don't know. Share screen. Link for FDP whiteboard.
You know, we can see it in
Mhm.
the
Select a window. The window is not being shown, The PowerPoint is on,
Yes, sir.
but
Sir, you can do one thing, sir. You can leave meeting and you can rejoin.
okay,
Maybe that
okay,
will
okay.
help.
Yeah, yeah, that will be good. That leave. And the analysis, that's participatory research. Archival, that's the research based upon the chronicles or archives, or the historical research, correlational research, where more than one, or two, or more than two variables are tried to be compared, and the outcomes deciphered. So these steps are known to one and all, but I'll lay emphasis while our research is being planned, research project is being planned, research proposal is being planned. You tend to formulate a research problem. You carry out the extensive literature search. It's usually said that extensive literature search is a prelude to extensive literature research. So search is the pivot before research. So after the search, you tend to develop the hypothesis. So I wish to highlight this aspect: hypothesis, hypothesis, thesis, yet to be, principle which is yet to be made, the outcome which is yet being proposed. It may be there, it may not be there, because research is to find the underlying truth, underlying facts, and you may have thought of some different facts, but it may turn out to be something different. We know the invention of penicillin. So, Alexander Fleming was looking for something else, but he, looked into something else, because he was trying to find the truth underlying, and the whole antibiotic era is because of those hypotheses. And then you tend to prepare the research design, collect the data, execute the data, and analyze the data. And once you analyze, you look into whether the hypothesis which you laid down in the step three, that stands confirmed or that stands refuted, whatever it may be, So you tend to discuss the findings, and you tend to prepare a report, a publication, or a thesis accordingly, So my dear friends, theory, whatever is existing in the prior art, in the literature, in publications, in books, in journals, and magazines, and in patents, that leads to the formation of hypothesis. Hypothesis leads you to carry out some observations through various experimentations, and those experimental observations tends to go back, to revisit the hypothesis, whether it stands rejected or accepted, and that, or partially or completely, and rejection or acceptance of the same, tends to lead to the change of the theory, whatever is already existing. And it does not matter whether hens came into existence or eggs came into existence. There's no fun, talking or, refuting each other, or arguing with each other. We have to lay sound hypothesis that it was eggs which came into existence first, and we have to work for its acceptance or rejection of the eggs. So in this endeavor for carrying out research, we understand, we the scientists understand, we the researchers understand that to err is human. To err is human, and day-to-day life is fine. To err is human is certainly fine in case of research. So there are various kinds of errors which we are likely to commit: honest errors, negligent errors, and deliberate errors. Honest errors, which are not intentional, but can be avoidable, usually अगर हम cautious रहें. Negligent error, which are unintentional, but certainly are avoidable, because this is because of our lackadaisical approach. Had we been more meticulous, negligent errors can be still avoided. Deliberate errors, which are intentional errors, which if committed are unpardonable and certainly avoidable. and these may lead to ethical violations and some punitive measures. Publishing is very, very important part of research. If the research is not published, how can it become the part of the scientific mainstream? This is very, very important. So, scientists, a physicist, Whitesides, George Whitesides, who wrote in Advanced Materials, in 2004, I quote him, our paper is an organized description of hypothesis, data, and conclusions. If your research does not generate papers, it might just as well not have been done. That's very important observation. Unless your paper generates unless your research generate papers, it is not going to be beneficial to the science. It's not going to be beneficial to the researchers who are carrying out work in the similar directions. They may be merely duplicating the research because you never made it happen and as part of the mainstream by publishing it or patenting it. So this is very, very important aspect, that we have to carry out research. We have not to let that research be confined to various theses or dissertations. Let it come out in the form of publications. So a social scientist is also, voicing the same manner. If it wasn't published, it wasn't done. So it's so important to publish the findings. And publishing is an, team effort. Not only the authors are involved, the scientists or the researchers are involved, the reviewers are involved who tend to, share their feedback, intelligent feedback, sagacious feedback, and editor tends to, act accordingly. And so it's a interplay of the teamwork between authors, reviewers, and the editors. So what is publishable? Original work and the significant findings. What is publishable is well organized, meticulously written papers. What is publishable is terse, that's concise, but complete findings. What is not publishable is routine extensions of the previous reports, you know, or fragmentary reports, partial reports, not the complete ones. And what is not publishable is, poorly organized papers. What is not publishable is verbose, where the language is, very flowery, very cosmetic language, not the technical one which everybody can understand. What's not publishable, where the manuscript lacks illustrations or has poor quality illustration. What's not publishable is are the papers which are violating the ethical guidelines. So peer review is one important process in this regard. I may share one very important caution. Many times the journals ask about the choice of the peer reviewers. Do you wish to recommend some reviewers for your journal article which you have submitted? And many times we get tempted and enticed and prompted to suggest some of the names from our, list of the relatives or friends, who are going to favor us. I think, this practice should be curbed because sometimes back, around 15, 20 years back, when this process of asking the recommendations of the reviewers was started, even I fell, allured to some of the names of my friends, and I got the report otherwise. The reviewer reports from my friends from the erstwhile, uh, relative circles or the acquaintances which used to pour in were not, sorry, authenticated ones, were not justified ones, and sometimes, biased in favor or against it. So since then, I have started recommending the names of the people who are really experts in that particular domain. So I am getting the honest feedback, whether positive or negative, whether for acceptance or revision or rejection. So I'm getting honest feedback for improvement of my article. So that's what the consideration of any researcher should be. And till the paper gets accepted, you have to pass through various milestones. As you see this scientist is trying to, pass through various hurdles. In 2008, Elsevier, who is not acquainted with Elsevier, the largest online publisher of scientific journals, questioned, is there any crisis in publishing ethics? And simultaneously gave the information that as many as 2 lakh of the 17 million, I'm talking about 2008. Today, the number must have swelled much more. And this was published in Nature, Springer Journal, Nature 2008, January. Sorry. So, as many as 2 lakh articles were duplicates in PubMed, and possibly 70 research papers published by one chemistry professor, Dr. Patium Chiranjeevi from Sri Venkateswara University, within a particular span, 3 year span, contain plagiarized information. This was published in Chemical and Engineering News in February 2008. In fact, I was, I whenever I get an opportunity to talk to the young faculty members, I had been doing it at Punjab University and otherwise. So I started talking on publishing ethics, I think way back and 5, 6 years back, and maybe 7 years back, so a couple of years back when I was making this academic Punjab University over a faculty development program. So one of the participant was from the same university, Venkateswara University. So he raised his hand. Sir, you are unnecessarily demeaning my university. My university is one of the top ranking university, and under NIRF, it's ranking amongst the top, I think, 25 or 20 universities, and you are tarnishing the image of our university. I told, these are the facts which I have got, but certainly I'll further investigate, and we can share emails or phone numbers. I shared you the more explicit information about Dr. Patiam Chiranjeevi. I forgot, and after a month or so, he wrote me an email. Sir, whatever you told during the presentation was found to have fallen prey to the unethical practices, and he was asked to resign after couple of years of investigation. So this is what was shared by none other than the scientific publisher, the biggest scientific publisher, Elsevier, in 2008. They wanted to make the scientists aware of and beware of various kinds of ethical manipulations, ethical violations, which can be, carried out. I'm just naming those: plagiarism, self-plagiarism, fabrication, deception, ghostwriting, bribery, cheating, sabotage, professional misconduct, salami slicing, mosaic plagiarism, bare assertions. I'll talk about the majority of them from next slide onwards. Plagiarism. I think this is the ethical violation which almost everybody is conversant with. Plagiarism is reproduction or adoption of original creations of another author without acknowledging the author, original author. Self-plagiarism, you are trying to duplicate more number of observations by sending the same material for publication in more than one journals. Fabrication, you are making data, which is not actually existing. Falsification, you are changing data. Data is existing. Data are there, but you are changing that. That's falsification. Ghostwriting, major is from somebody who is not one of the contributors in the list, or you are contributing significantly, but you are not amongst the list of that, and cheating, obtaining assistance in the form of some exercise without due acknowledgement, and bribery. You're paying money or you're accepting money for getting the work published. Sabotage, you're working against the research or research publication of somebody, and professional misconduct, gross fraudulent activity, fraud, gross fraud, a scam kind, is called as a professional misconduct. In any country, professional misconduct is considered as a, punishable crime under the penal codes of those countries. But in academic manipulations, the penalty may be ranging, widely ranging. Plagiarism, I'll explain it a little better because this is the most frequently committed error, and many aspects of which are not known. So I'll start in a lighter vein. What plagiarism is, it ranges from unreferences use of others' published ideas, including manuscripts, um, manipulations the manuscript, or in the proposal, research proposals, or in the research grant applications. Let me share. We became, at Punjab University and University Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, way back in late 90s, I think 1996 or 97. I and one of my seniors, Dr. YC Dutt, became victim to this kind of plagiarism activity in the research grant applications. We applied for TIFAC, DST TIFAC grant for several crores, I think 3.5 crores, something like that. At that very time, I'm talking about 90s, for making University Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences as the drug information center to provide any kind of information, drug-related information, anytime, or through online databases. So I was, at that very time, venturing into, development of computer software with pharmaceutical applications, while Dr. Dutt was, quite trained from University of British Columbia in the development of drug information services. So we joined hand and wrote this grant application, and we didn't got any information from DST for next 2 years. So although we were quite disheartened, and having waited for that, Dr. Dutt left for USA back, while I started working in different directions. One fine morning, I heard from one of my students, who was a graduate from our department and did post graduation in another prestigious educational institute from the country. And he called me, "Sir, I wish to meet you. I'm currently working in Mumbai, and I'm here in Chandigarh. So I wish to meet you for half an hour. So, this very important, information which I have been, thinking of sharing with you for the last 1 year, but I couldn't squeeze time. So please give me half an hour. Today, it's a very busy day for me. A couple of classes, one practical class, and something like that. So interaction. So not today. I told, "Sir, please pardon me. I may not be able to to the city. So please give me some time." And room is abuzz with some activity here and there. Dr. Amit knows. So he came over and he asked pardon from the research scholars who were sitting in my room, that I wish to talk something confidentially. And he bolted the door from inside and he shared on my feet, "Sir, I wish to confess and I wish to share that sometime back, yes, the TIFAC, and my institute was asked to host the meeting of the experts over, uh, you know, selecting the proposals to be funded. And my teacher and my head, must have talked to them that please, you know, uh, have something for us too, some funding for us. And then, "You haven't applied for DST TIFAC grants, and okay, sir, अब कुछ करवा लीजिए." और कहते, "ये here is one good proposal, इसका इससे better बना के ले आइए." So what what did they do? The proposal sent by you. So we worked upon for because so we made based upon that we made 10-15% changes and updates, and we submitted the same report to similar report to them, and we were granted. So, and we do not know how to do it. So मेरे मन में ये बहुत बड़ा भार था. So I just wanted to share this with you, so because I had very high degree of respect for both of my teachers. So I somehow मुझे ये बार बार कचोटता था. you know so I wanted to share with you. So this too can happen. If I'm at this stage, at this age, seniors like Professor Jan, Professor Katare, kind of responsibility by the gubernatorial agencies like UGC, CSER, or DBT or DST to review some of the proposals. And there is one proposal which is very unique, very innovative, and very novel. So we too get tempted. Wow, this is such a great idea. And the negative mind may say, why not not grant the recommendation for this proposal, but copy this proposal, get a photostat of the same, and write your own, grant application based upon that. So that kind of a tendency is leading to the plagiarism, and that is quite rampant across the world, which is very very serious case as well. Besides the many manipulations in the manuscripts here. So plagiarism is, my dear friends, an act or an attempt to write or present somebody else's work or idea as your own without acknowledging the original authors. So this guy on the left say, if you cut and paste, people call it plagiarism, but I didn't cut and paste. I printed it and then typed it in. It's not plagiarism. But my dear friends, even if the information has been printed or copied, it's plagiarism. Control X, Control V, Control C, Control V are the keys that prompt many a times one of us to go into the simple plagiarism. This small kid tells, what do you mean all my facts are wrong? I copied everything straight off the internet. So madam gave him an F because everything was copied, everything was plagiarized. And look, the guy behind is copying the idea, the image of the farmer. This again is a case of plagiarism, not only the publications here. Now, this small kid complains to the parent. My report, she accused me of plagiarizing off the internet. And please, I'm sorry, there was some interruption. My teacher gave me an F on my report and she accused me of plagiarizing off the internet. And father says, that is outrageous. I'll get that teacher fired. I stole that report years ago from National Geographic magazine and got an A on it, and you're getting F. How could that be possible? Because ignorance many times is bliss for us. And you see the left guy tells, I'm here because of the grand theft of automobile. And what about you? And the right guy tells, I'm here because of plagiarism. And you look at the dress code at the back is also plagiarized by the right guy, because आते नहीं जाती है. So this guy sued all of the people who first tweeted on Twitter almost 17, 18 years back. The first guy, when Twitter was announced, Twitter was, opened, first guy wrote, I'm having coffee. The other guy wrote, I'm having coffee too. The third guy wrote, I'm having filter coffee. Fourth guy told I'm having coffee with bickies, Another, you know, and somebody wrote, I don't have coffee, I'm having tea. And this first guy, sued everybody that everybody has plagiarized my sentence. And the judge gave the, justification that it's not a case of plagiarism. It's a common information that has been, copied. That, I'm having coffee is not a very technical or very discrete kind of information. So it's a common knowledge which is being, copied. It's not a case of plagiarism anymore. People have their own classical, jovial definitions of plagiarism. Now, these are the fraternal identical twins. The girl on the left who was born 4 minutes earlier calls herself as Control C, and the girl, the identical twin who was born 4 minutes later, calls herself as Control V. Copy paste. The guy tells his father, "Papa, what I called as creative recycling, the school call is as plagiarism. That's why I got an F on in every subject." So another kid tells his mom, "Mom, it's not called as plagiarism anymore. It's called as prepackaged originality." And this girl has very interesting definition. Stealing from one person is plagiarism, but stealing from so many is research. Probably many of us agree with this. This is what sometimes is happening in non-scientific research as well. This is just not good enough, the teacher tells, and understand that it's plagiarized. But the student tells, "Sir, if it is not good enough, but it's from your own book, even if it is from sir's book, it's a case of plagiarism." Plagiarism, but my roommate gave me permission to use his paper and said I don't have to cite him. Even if you have got the verbal or written permission not to cite, if you do not acknowledge the original authors, it is a definitive case of plagiarism. The guy tells, this paper sounds a little like the article which we read last week. And the girl tells, yell, what can I say? Great minds think alike. No, great minds cannot think exactly alike. It's a definitive case of copy pasting. That's plagiarism. Really, the student tells, someone told it's not a case of plagiarism if the original authors are dead, even if the original authors are in heaven. If you have copied, pasted, so it's a case of plagiarism. One gets tempted to plagiarism very easily. This girl tells, if I don't copy that 12-page assignment which is due tomorrow, I'm certainly gonna fail. So let me copy paste from somewhere. So you get tempted. And the boss tells, I need you to do a presentation on the topic of plagiarism. If you don't have time to prepare anything, just steal something off the internet. So writing about plagiarism through plagiarizing. I downloaded my essay from the internet, and the topic is the perils of plagiarism. Interesting. And the topic for the examinees is how important are ethics in the today's society. And look, how ethical are the examinees? Self plagiarism. Self plagiarism is, you are submitting your work to more than one resources for getting the credit of publication for the same work. Now here, Henry Clinton was very pleased, almost 8 years back, 12 years back, when Barack Obama was fighting the candidacy of the Democrats for Democratic presidential candidate against Henry Clinton. So, he was accused of using the same speech more than once, but later on was found that the same speech was not used. Self-plagiarized himself.
Good afternoon, Sam. I'm glad you are here. I like to get an update on your progress with the research manuscript. As you know, tomorrow is the deadline for submission.
Oh, no problem. It will be ready by noon tomorrow.
This manuscript is very important. Do you have any questions about any of the sections?
Well, yes. I used the university plagiarism detection software and found some sections with a high match rate. The background section has a 60% match rate with another article, and the results section has a 40% match rate.
Oh, what were the sources of the matches?
Both were articles that you were listed as a co-author.
Yes, I copied and pasted some of the content from those articles. Since I wrote those sections, it is fine.
According to the information in my research integrity course, this is still considered plagiarism and is classified as self-plagiarism. Any content used from another source must be properly cited.
Are you sure? I've done this before and no one noticed.
I am not sure why, but
Many times for us, ignorance is bliss, This lady, professor, was not ignorant, but the young postdoc was, aware because he has undergone the search integrity course. As the attempts are being made by Maharaja Ranjit Singh Technical University to familiarize all of us. So ignorance, the lady was ignorant whether I can copy paste my own publications into another, because the methodology remain the same, the text remains the same. It was I who wrote the original text, so it's I who's copy pasting from my own publication. So this is still considered as unethical practice termed as self plagiarism. Another, mosaic plagiarism. Mosaic plagiarism is, in other words, called as intelligent plagiarism. To cite one example, there is a sentence I read out. The artist employed myriad colors to illustrate the transformation from the dream world to reality. And the guy who used mosaic plagiarism, he used the synonymous language. The painter used many colors to show the change from the imaginary world to actuality. Instead of artist, it's paint. Instead of employed, it's used. Instead of myriad, it's many. Instead of illustrate, it's show. Instead of transformation, it's change. Instead of dream world, it is imaginary world. Instead of reality, it is actuality. So the synonymous language has been used. So it's a case of plagiarism which no software can detect, but only intelligent people can detect. It has been totally copied, but only synonyms have been used. So the correct usage in this case can be color, can be a way to show transitions. And in the current case, the painter uses it to show where fiction ends and reality begins. Or, in other words, within quotes, myriad colors were used by the painter to show, within quotes, transformation from dream world to reality. So here in the last, he has used some text in quotation marks from, myriad colors, transformation from dream world to reality. It means, he has borrowed the words as such. He is conceding, although this kind of quotation marks reproduction is allowed in humanities, in social sciences, more of the technical world, in the scientific world, techno-scientific world, this is not allowed. Only you have to re-paraphrase. How do I avoid plagiarism? Always reference the work of others, put the words of others if you are borrowing in quotation marks, and seek the permission of the original contributors, original publishers. Wherever the information is colossal, or wherever the information is figurative, that's diagrammatic, or wherever the information contains a lot of tabulations, etc. Lot of information is there. You have to seek the permission of the original authors, original publishers, who have got the copyright. You have to write to them. It cannot be accidental. There are three types of information which cited, that is words, that's text, ideas, and graphics. One doesn't need to cite if it is your own information, your name, your address, your credentials, or it's a common knowledge. I've just shared the Twitter example. I'm having coffee, common knowledge. That Maharaja Ranjit Singh Technical University, is situated in which city, and if somebody else, uses that information, so he's not plagiarizing. It's a common information. Avoiding plagiarism, you can easily avoid by doing your own work, establishing your own voice, and carrying out research very carefully and meticulously, and keeping copies of all your research drafts, and making sure that your document is properly constructed with proper citations of the references, and all your work, the hard copies of the same should be shared with your mentor. If your mentor yourself, you should share the hard copies with your student as well. So citing, paraphrasing, and summarizing, these three are the keys
Whenever you use a
to make
source
my
of
point
something
across.
that you're writing, whether that source is a journal article, a website, a book, or whatever, you have two choices in terms of how you use that source. You can either quote from it using the author's direct words and quotation marks, or you can paraphrase from it. Let's talk about this word paraphrase. You've probably heard it explained to you as, quote, putting it in your own words. Well, that's about half right. Sometimes less, sometimes more. You see, whenever you paraphrase, you can't really put something completely in your own words. You can put it into your own phrases, your own sentences, because you will have to repeat certain key words. Let me give you an example. Let's look at this. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927, which covered portions of Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee under 30 feet of water, is considered the most destructive river flood in United States history. Citation, fatal flood. Now, if you're going to paraphrase that, you can't put it entirely into your own words. How else are you going to say Louisiana, or Mississippi, or Kentucky, or flood, or 1927? You have to use certain key words. So the issue is not putting something 100% into your own words. The issue is putting it into your own voice, your own phrases, your own sentences. Let's take a look at a good paraphrase. In 1927, the Great Mississippi Flood drowned, including Louisiana, and is still considered as the worst our country has ever known. Citation, fatal flood. So as you see, I repeated certain key words, and that's just fine.
So, as this professor was reiterating, we have to be proficient in paraphrasing or re-paraphrasing. We have to put it into our own phrases. We must be proficient in the language in which the article is being published. It is invariably English with us. So we have to be proficient in to use the same sentence in a different context, in a different language, So, of course, for that very purpose, you have to use some keywords. Say, for example, majority of our drug delivery work is quality by design oriented in our from our laboratories. So we have to use critical or quality target such invariably, and to detect it as the part of the matching practices, but we have to bear with it's these keywords have to be used, but the sentence overall needs to be re-paraphrased to avoid plagiarism. One must realize that almost all the ethical violations do get exposed, maybe sooner or later. Now, earlier you get an award for your publications, and when you are exposed for your fraudulent activities, that award gets converted to fraud. And one example for the same is Fareed Zakaria, which almost a decade back, Fareed Zakaria used to be very highly paid and highly sought after TV anchor in CNN and Time, channels, of the most sort of channels, highest paid TV anchor. But sometime back, he in 2012, he was suspended by CNN and Time both for writing an article which was plagiarized from Time magazine, that is New Yorker magazine, this article, and which was taken up from the part of it, which was taken up from Time magazine, and he didn't acknowledge taken up from the Time magazine. So he had to apologize, he had to admit, and his career is doomed. He's no more seen on the TV. What to talk of anchor? Even for a small guest appearance, his career is doomed because of plagiarism. Canada PM faces plagiarism charge. That is free, because he used similar kind of speech, once again in Canada. So, but he was exonerated after seeking apologies in 2003. And in 2000 again, similar kind of accusation was leveled against the then President George Bush. So he was also exonerated, but his aide, his secretary, had to resign for using the similar kind of speech for George Bush. Similar, kind of, event happened with Dr. C.N. Rao when he was working as the principal scientific secretary under the tutelage of Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2012. So he used Dr. Manmohan Singh used some text which was borrowed from one of the WHO or NIH. I'm forgetting, information, but he didn't refer that this is taken up from WHO or NIH. So the information was passed on as if it is the information gathered by the Indian government. So since the original reference was not cited, some of the MPs objected to it, seriously objected to it, that it's a case of plagiarism, and Dr. C.N. Rao had to apologize it publicly, and Dr. Manmohan Singh also, humbly apologized on behalf of Dr. C.N. Rao and on his own personal behalf in Parliament, and the matter was settled. But it does not get settled always. Dr. R.A. Marshalkar, the CSIR Director General, in 2007, his secretary again used some information, part of the information, which was borrowed from somewhere, and he didn't cite the reference. So it was considered as a case of plagiarism, and Dr. Marshalkar had to own the error or the blunder of his secretary, and Dr. Marshalkar had to resign. No, I met him sometime back, almost 5 years back. Now he's, director of a pharmaceutical company and leading almost an anonymous life because he had to resign because of plagiarism. John Bon Jovi, those who are fond of English music, for them this name is quite familiar. So he's a heartthrob of millions of people because he's a great singer and one of the highest paid singer till date. And he was sued for dollar 400 billions. My dear friends, it takes billions, mean 10 raised to power 12, 4 into 10 raised to power 14 dollars, and multiply that with 75. So 310 raised to power 14 means 3 into 10 raised to power 16 rupees. He was sued for, but of course, the matter got settled at almost 1/10 of the amount out of court, because he plagiarized one of the, lyrics of the song to break the monotony. And I think this was a song from Zalima movie. I think many of us still remember a couple of years back. And Shah Rukh Khan was the main actor in the what we call as hero of the film, who on which this song was filmed, and this was accused of getting plagiarized from the lyrics of Taeyang's uh, song "Eyes, Nose, Lips," and almost it they considered. So the matter had to be settled out of court, because had the matter been prolonged, there would have been serious implications about the reputation of the movie, reputation of the producer, director, and this actor. German defense minister, I think many of us are familiar that in Europe, UK, uh, the ministries, the ministers, are invariably highly educated ones. They are PhDs, they are MTechs, they are MBAs, and even in the recently, a couple of years, in Pakistan, the ministry was, found out of very, highly educated intellectuals. And I learn in Telangana too. But unfortunately, overall, if we look around, in the country, in our country, this trend is missing. We have illiterate people reaching the parliament as well, or hardly literate people. We have, it's a separate matter. Criminals as well thronging the parliament, whom we elect through this democratically, set up system. But in Germany particularly is known for, Germany, Russia, and France, Spain, Denmark, etc. They are known for sending the educated people to the high ranks. So this German defense minister, Karl Theodor, had to quit because his PhD was found to be, plagiarized, and he was stripped of his PhD degree, and so he had to resign from the German defense ministry. And not only that, in 1 year later, the education minister, that's Dr. Annette Schwan, had to be again for similar charges of plagiarism, had to be, stripped of her PhD degree, and she was asked to resign from the education ministry. And in 2017, of French physicist who was, nominated for the Nobel Prize, more than once. So he had to resign after the allegations of plagiarism proved to be, true. He was leveled against in 2017, and in 2018 his accusations were found to be correct, and he had to resign from the president of Institute of Advanced Studies for Science and Technology in Paris. And a couple of years back, Ivanka Trump, the daughter of the then president, Donald Trump. I said the then because the elections are on the anvil in US. Who knows what is the next outcome? Whether it will be Trump or somebody else. So Ivanka Trump was accused of plagiarizing the text of the speech which Henry Clinton gave some time back. So when she went back, so she had to apologize it publicly and in media, so to not to face the wrath of the U.S. public. Dr. T. Santhanam, a computer science professor from India, in 2017, he was appointed as the principal of a college, prestigious college in South India. And he was accused of plagiarizing his PhD thesis, the validation of a computer simulation model using spectral analysis, from a research publication which was published in 1974. Please try to understand. In 2001 में उसने PhD किया, 74 में उस किसी आर्टिकल में से उसने सिग्निफिकेंटली बोरो किया, बट उसको एक्नॉलेज नहीं किया. And he treated as if he has carried out the research. So it was found out that he has plagiarized, and he had to be stripped off from his PhD, and he had to resign from his position of the professor and the principal in uh, 2019. February 18, he was leveled against, and 2019, last year, he had to resign. So this can happen anytime. Dr. Craig Wright, he had to resign during the lockdown period in May 2020. He's the chief scientist at Bitcoin and self-proclaimed of creator of Bitcoin industry. So he had to again, for he had to resign because it was proved that he has plagiarized his PhD thesis uh, from some sources which he had not disclosed. So again, his future hanged in balance. I have not updated it in May 2020, but very recently in September he had to resign because it was proved against him. And my own experience, where I have undergone some cases of plagiarism. Number one, case study is anti-diabetic effects of fenugreek alkaloid extract in streptozotocin induced hyperglycemic rats. Everybody knows that in case of studies which are carried out for anti-diabetic drugs, the diabetes has to be induced in animals, and one such model is streptozotocin induction. So here, this work has been published by Naveen Helmi et al., from Egypt. And the abstract says this study was undertaken to investigate the effect of alkaloid extract of fenugreek, dash, 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 dash. And it's work of Egypt scientist. And this was published in 2007. And 2009, another article appears. Antibiotic effects of fenugreek alkaloid extract in alloxan. Earlier it was streptozotocin. Now it's alloxan. The only difference between the previous publication and this publication is that instead of streptozotocin, another model of hyperglycemia induction was used, that is alloxan. Alloxan induced hyperglycemic rat. And you just read out, this study was undertaken to investigate the effect of alkaloid extract of fenugreek. Exactly same, wherever streptozotocin was there, that was replaced with the alloxan, and it is authored by Patil et al. So investigations happened. Ultimately, Patil et al. Were deprived of the benefits of getting their work published in this journal, International Journal of Pharmaceutical Tech Research. That's all. That's all the penalty could be given to them. Case study two. I was part of this. I was part of the adjudication of this article. Some time back, Bhupendra Singh, it's not me, it's one scientist from Agra, SN Medical College, and Deepak Chetia from Dibrugarh, they wrote an article in Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences and Drug Research, a new generation of 7-chloro-4-aminoquinoline antimalarials. And having the article been accepted for publication, the editor rose to the corresponding author, that's Bhupendra Singh, that your article is accepted for publication. Now you have to pay 2,000 rupees as the publication charges. And Bhupendra Singh wrote back, no, I'm not going to pay 2,000 rupees as publication charges because you never asked in the instructions earlier. Now you are asking after my work getting accepted for publication. If you accept it without the publication charges, well and fine, I'll be obliged, I'll be appreciative. If you are still insistent and persuasive on getting 2,000 rupees as the publication fee, so please consider my article as withdrawn, retracted. I do not wish to publish this article in your journal because you are asking for money. Once you have publicized it as a free publication. So the article was withdrawn. But a year later, the same article was published. It appeared a new generation of 7-chloro-4-aminoquinoline antimalarials, but by Virendra Singh, at all. Virendra Singh et al. So, and majority of the authors were from Rajasthan, or Udaipur and Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, So these were the people, and I was the honorary editorial board member of Systematic Reviews in Pharmacy, Medno Journal. So they wrote to me that you are being requested to investigate the matter as an adjudicator. So I, along with one scientist from South India, Professor Udupa, so we investigated that ML Corey was the corresponding author, and rest four all were the editorial board members or the reviewer members of the previous Journal of Pharmaceutical Science and Drug Research. So they had access to this article. And ML Puri is a student, Virendra Singh was working with him, a pharmaceutical chemist and medicinal chemist. So he asked him to, publish this article as such in this journal. So he published it, he sent it. It got published. So when we investigated, we found that it is total case of plagiarism, and it's an unethical practice on the part of ML Corey, CS Sharma, M. Mohan Singhal, Lal Kumar Tyagi to rope in Virender Singh as the scapegoat and publish it in this journal. So what was the final outcome? Medno journals, banned these four authors, have banned these four authors from publication in their journals. They have a list of their journals, but nothing could be done. Then third case, and this was the article, Systematic Reviews in Pharmacy, and this was the article which was published, which was ultimately retracted. Case 3. I was now, earlier I was adjudicator, and in case 3, I was the victim. My own article was, plagiarized. One of my students, ex-student, Sonia Puhuja, she writes to me, sir, when I was trying to consult your paper, there are 2 copies appearing. One is yours, and exact article is being, authored by some Afsar Sheikh et al. I do not know. I just didn't bother. And I, forwarded it to one of my research scholars to investigate. And research scholars in Neka, sir, this is very serious matter. On one fine Saturday evening, which Saturday normally we, reserve for research discussions, she told that, sir, this is something very serious. मैं कहा, okay यार, हमें अपने काम से काम रहने दो. हमारा क्यों अपनी एनर्जी से अपना फोकस चेंज करें, हम अपने काम से काम करें, लोग करते हैं तो करने दो. And my research scholars, I tend to discuss research findings with open mind, and try to encourage the students, for discussion. The students, share, sir, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है हमारा article as such कैसे copy कर सकते हैं? Sir, no, we have to bring them to book. We have bring them to task. Okay, if you are so insistent, let's write to the journal editor. We wrote to him, we reminded him, we re-reminded him of no response. So whistle was blown, but there was no response. And then again, one fine Saturday evening, after a month or so, the students were, very agitated. And sir, हमें कुछ करना चाहिए, इसको पुलिस में करना चाहिए. पुलिस में कोई ऐसा कोई प्रावधान नहीं है हमारे country में. So you cannot do it. But of course, what I can propose to you is that let's write to the editorial board members of the journal. So we wrote to that journal's editorial board members, and there were 10-15 editorial board members, and they responded almost instantaneously, telling that we are going to, or we have written, or we are going to write to the editor to take adequate response. But still there was hardly any the matter was under his investigation, and he didn't respond. The editor time and again was non-responsive. So by that time, Scientia Pharmaceutical, where the work was published, approaches me for reviewing one paper. While accepting the review of that paper, I wrote back that one of the articles which was published in your journals 4 5 years back, that has been totally plagiarized by another author. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You just tell me the details. I shared the details, and back came the reply from the journal editor that it's not his first case, Afsar Sheikh's et al.'s. It is his second case of plagiarism, and we are going to write to his principal that case should be initiated against him. Okay, please, 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 let's hold on. Let me try to contact that guy. So we found out his landline number, and I tried to contact him. I found out his email too, so we tried to contact him through both the means that before we start any serious action against you, you should contact us. And it's a separate matter. It's a long story. In a matter of 2 3 months, we sought his apology. He tendered written apology, and then he tendered a written apology not to commit this kind of felony again. And we sought similar kind of apologies from his co-authors too. But barring one who had fled to Australia somewhere and was not traceable, rest all gave an undertaking that we admit that we committed a blunder, and we will not commit such kind of errors in due course of time. And the article, this was our article in Scientia Pharmaceutica, and this was the article which was totally copied in Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical and Clinical Research, and the whistle was blown. And finally, this was the article at the bottom, which was published in open access journal. And later on, after the editor was convinced, so it appeared the article has been withdrawn from publication owing to plagiarism. So then the editor writes an editorial, Asian Journal of Pharmaceutical and Clinical Research, first case of plagiarism. And he writes over here by Bhupender Singh, and we are thankful to Dr. Bhupender Singh for his and his team for pointing out this case of plagiarism. What can it lead to, plagiarism? Detraction of work, withdrawal of work, parent notification, that's notification to the parent institute, referral to administrators. It can lead to suspension, it can lead to dismissal, it can certainly lead to loss of reputation in the scientific community. It can lead to the blacklisting by the publishers. In Philippines, you can be fined to the tune of $50,000, from $100 to $50,000, and you can be put behind bars for 1 year in jail for just plagiarizing. It's the case is taken up very seriously in Philippines. In USA, you can be fined to the tune of 2.5 thousand to 2.5 lakh in dollars, and you can be put behind bars for up to 10 years for plagiarism. But in our country and many other countries, there is no such penalty levied against plagiarism. My dear friends, there are software and software which can come to our help. Authenticate is the software which is most sought after by various scientific journals. And Turnitin software is most frequently used across the world, and it has good amount of database. While Urkund software is the software which is recommended by UGC and which is a cost-effective software, but which has a smaller database too. And there are some open source uh, softwares which are available for detection of the plagiarism or similarity, duplicate checker, plagium, white smoke, and so on and so forth. Those who are interested can click this slide as well. And there is one free online plagiarism checker as well. This can also be clicked. Search engine reports.net and articlecheck.aspx. So you can use this website for checking a couple of pages against plagiarism free of cost. The previous one was also free of cost. That's online open source sources. This is online. And how does the plagiarism software work? I think we are already behind schedule, so I bypass. So it could be fingerprinting, it could be string matching or substring matching, so on and so forth. And in Punjab University, it has been a routine practice since 2009 to detect all the PhD thesis for plagiarism. And there are books and books written on plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. A word about fabrication and falsification. So fabrication is gross manipulation, making the data, and falsification is presenting a different picture of the original work. Original work is different. Original building is different over here, and the guy himself is getting photographed in terms of a falsified, picture. And fabrication is making up the data, or in other words, cooking the data. So falsification is just lying, fabrication is just cheating, and plagiarism is copying. And there are other redundant publications as well. Salami slicing, duplicate. I'll just explain hurriedly. Salami slicing, if you are trying to maximize the list of publications by, taking out one part of data or one part of publication, adding to another and getting another publication, adding one part to another from the previous published report and getting another publication, you are slicing the data and producing the same in the other journals, which is becoming very difficult these days. This is called Islamic slicing. Duplicate publication, dishonest, intellectual theft, data augmentation. Again, you're adding some data to the previous information and getting it published for another uh, publication. Again, this is becoming quite difficult with the plagiarism detection as the prerequisite these days. Cheating, you are representing someone else's work as your known, and you are using deliberately the illegal documents or information in your work. Bribery, you are paying money for getting your work published, or you are seeking money for getting somebody else's work published. Sabotage, you are working against the research of somebody, or you are working against the research publication of somebody. There's a very famous case of Dr. Vipul Brigu. He was a postdoc scholar at University of Michigan, a very prestigious university in the recent rankings by the U.S. World, and on 25th of this month, Michigan University was in the top 10 of I think top 10 or top 20 universities across the world. So he was working over there. He was very fortunate to have reached over here, and he was somewhat envious of one of his Chinese, lady colleague, who was blue collared, research scholar, a postdoctoral research scholar for her mentor. Mentor used to like her work, so he was little envious and jealous. So he time and again spoiled her experiments, And having been skeptical of the mischief, this lady, put a web camera on in the night and found Vipul Brigu, creating some havoc with her Western blot experiment, and he was caught red-handed, and he was deported to India. His career is doomed because of the sabotage working against one of his colleagues. And this case was presented in none other than Nature Journal, the highest cited, the highest impact factor journal, Nature, in 2010 of Vipul Braggu. Ghostwriting, you're assisting somebody without involving yourself as the writer, as the author, or you are seeking assistance and without involving the person whom you are, whose assistance you are seeking. So this called as ghostwriting, And now in joking language, this person is telling that as your chosen auto biographical ghostwriter. I think everybody knows that autobiography is to be written by one own self. So, but the guy has been hired for writing the autobiography of somebody else. When if I need anything, I'll ask. You just pay me the money. And I'll write autobiography. It's ghostwriting. So the child it also knows that, and he approaches his mom. Mom, I need you to ghostwrite my English essay, and there is a circular of ghostwriters wanted, and even ghosts are ready to apply for ghostwriters. Misconduct, misconduct activity of great magnitude. So if you can't compare price or quality, many times you tend to have the option in leading to frauds. So cat was cloned, rabbits were cloned, mule was cloned, and human embryo was cloned. All turned out to be frauds in the early 2010s, and they were all turned out to be frauds. And the one of the researchers, that's Wu Suk Huang, had to seek apologies, and two of the papers written in Science had to be withdrawn. Science is next to science as next to nature, sorry, in terms of the impact factor. So another case, again, probably, since we are going beyond, I'll cut it short. Dr. Vijay Gupta from Punjab University, who was Dean Students Welfare when we were inducted into the faculty in early 80s in Punjab University, and he was pitted for the next vice chancellorship. He had 450 publications to his credit, and 18 were leveled against. So he was known all across the world in geology, and our university had the first Center of Advanced Studies in Geology due to Vijay Gupta. But some time back, he got uh, allured to some of the fossils which were kept in New Wales Museum in UK. So he, along with his research scholar, pilfered some of the fossils very, cleverly, you know, stolen. He stole. And they implanted those fossils in the sub-Himalayan regions near Chandigarh, near Nada Sahib area, and took out the expedition on one fine weekend. And the guy who was in connivance with Dr. Vijay Gupta told, sir, ये देखो कुछ लगता है, fossil fossil लगता है. And they claimed to have found out some fossils, and they reported in Nature News, Nature. And J.A. Talent got, one of the scientists got skeptical that how can this happen? Such type of fossils cannot be available in India, in the Himalayan region. So he investigated, and he found out that some fossils were pilfered from New Wales Museum, and we recently visited them. There were no cameras at that very time, so case was settled, and uh, he was found to be, an accused. His career was doomed, and he had to apologize. He had to resign from Punjab University position and led a very anonymous life afterwards. Else he would have been the vice chancellor of Punjab, very prestigious university. Punjab University's reputation also was brought down due to Vijay Gupta. In Bell Laboratories, I have been to Bell Laboratories in USA. So two professors, Hendrick and Scott, they published in, again, Nature Physics. Conductivity had to be withdrawn because they claimed to have used some equipment which they didn't have. So this work from Bell Laboratories. In China, almost 70 false crystals had to be withdrawn by two of the scientists, that's Zhong and Liu, because they were, falsified. In Russia, one third of the dissertations are bought for the money, and since 2008, plagiarism detection has been the routine phenomenon. And recently, Putin's recently in 2017-18, his PhD work was leveled against. But since he was the premier of the country, he got the issue covered up. And scientific misconduct, whistleblowing is reporting the unethical practices, and many times the whistleblower, whether internal or external, has to get the penalty for the same. Here the boss tells, you did the right thing, whistleblower, so naturally we have to fire you. We have to say you goodbye. And here is the bust of the whistleblower lying outside the institute. And when the whistleblower gets recognition, as this is the case, then the accused are in trouble. Sometimes more than one whistleblowers are there, as this case is there. There are so many potential whistleblowers behind the curtains for finding out anything going haywire. And sometimes administration maintain anonymity of the whistleblowers, so that they are not harmed in day-to-day life too. People who tend to write against the crimes and the illicit activities of the politicians or administrators. They are put to harm by the people who are in the power. So and for that, sometimes administrations wants them to maintain anonymity. I keep asking this question, which has been the general norm with the unethical practices, that cheating is an art of the smart people. Or what do you say? But since we do not have enough time to ask and respond, people tell yes, it is the act of smart people. But I do not feel it's cheating is not an act of the smart people. It is in fact temptation for the simple shortcuts, which which allure the lazy one. It's an act of the lazy ones. So why do we commit such type of unethical practices? Due to mounting pressures, the competition is increasing, the funding is getting reduced, the performance is on the basis of publications and patents, and the papers are not very rightly evaluated, meticulously evaluated, and we get allured towards short and sometimes it's due to difficulties in understanding. And I must appreciate MRS PTU for taking up this case of familiarizing on the research ethics with everybody. So fundamental law is ignorance, lack of information and knowledge, and sometimes we get we are caught unawares. When the boss tells that you fail. Okay, oh, I didn't know about that. I was plagiarizing, and sometimes it's written legal ethics, medical ethics, ethics, as this guy is doing. He the guy on the left is trying to photograph, and the guy on red for you are going to give me this undertaking that you are not going to share this picture on blogs and blah blah blah, because he's too finicky, too fastidious about the ethical issues. And there are, as far as journals are concerned, there are good publication practices. That's and there is one organization called as scope, committee on publication ethics, for which all the major publishers, including Elsevier, Ville, Taylor and Francis, Macmillan, Wolf, Clover, and Springer, all are part of the COPE committee, which tend to minimize the incidences of publication ethical violation. So I have a couple of articles on this cadet. I'll share it with Dr. Amit and Dr. Ashish, if anybody wishes those articles to get familiarized with this aspect to greater extent. And do's and don'ts I have proposed. And I have proposed HAIL ethical norms, which is an acronym for honesty, animal care, integrity, legality, etc. And there are some web sources which are touching upon the concept, the unethical violations and UGC's policies. 10% similarity is okay, up to 40%, not given marks, above 60%, even the mentors are going to be booked. So the guidelines are keep changing, but the despite is that nowadays, they are making it compulsory plagiarism detection, but using Urkund software. Urkund is coming up as a blessing in disguise because it doesn't have a major database, big database. So since it doesn't have much bigger database, so the similarity report, which tells you around 40 to 45% in Turnitin or Authenticate, tells, shares only 10 to 12% in Urkund because it doesn't have that big database, and it's not very expensive too. So and as long as Urkund is the yardstick by UGC, the scientists will, those who are submitting their thesis will consider themselves as lucky. But those who are submitting their publications for, getting evaluated for prestigious journals, they have to get their articles pre-screened using Turnitin or Plague Checker or Authenticate, because these are the software which are normally, borrowed by the journal sites. Orkun is free of cost with so many universities, funded by UGC. So, my dear friends, on over the last 38 years, two techniques and two tech transfers, in collaboration with my able colleague, Professor Katale, where, some work has been done collaboratively, some awards, rewards. Dr. Amit has already shared recently, in May 2019, the Global QBD Excellence Award, and the list which has been, compiled by my research, some awards for my uh, students as well, to Dr. Rishi Kapil, Dr. Kesar Azar, Dr. Sarwar Beg, Dr. Rajneet, international awards. And 10-volume book series on nanobiomed and our liaison with industry. Dr. Amit has industry in India, Bangladesh, Dubai, and in Canada, which I have a lot of gratification of training them in QBD, biowaivers, and nanomedicine. So these two were the articles in Journal of Farm, negative results. In its first issue, first article was invited, and I can send it across. And then in Chronicle Pharma Base, it was published. Yeah. So second rank we maintained in 2016, and we are in the 2022, we got the second rank. Even if we may be second or third, but in terms of research and collaborative performance, we have always been ranking first across the country. And this is due to the pioneering uh, work and spirits infused by our predecessors, like late Professor Kinji, whom we lost in the recent lockdown in March 2020, the only Padma Shri awardee amongst the pharmaceutical professionals. Here he's being awarded with. मंजिल तो मिली जाएगी, जरा भटक के सही, गुमराह तो वो लोग हैं जो घर से निकले ही नहीं. I'm winding up. Couple of minutes more. Success is journey, not a destination. But journey to destination is usually straight, but not zigzag. But colors around sometimes distract us, and we get, fallen into the ditch, and we get denigrated in our own eyes. And then we call for help to let us come out of that ditch. And in this regard, the famous scientist whom I adore, Albert Einstein, used to tell, try not to become a man of success, but try to become a man of value. Success would automatically, follow as per the law of Gita, as per the principles of Gurbani. And you call for the invisible help hand to help. So I would bank upon all the participants to, spend 30 to 25 seconds with me in, praying to Almighty Lord to grant us 25 seconds to grant us the ethical conscientiousness. We need to pray and meditate on that one to get ethical grace showered on us. My dear friends, let's commit today and adhere to this ethical path. Always, attitude determines the altitude. Hence, we have to transform our attitude. A journey of 1,000 miles has to start with a single leap. We gratefully acknowledge important textual and web sources, especially webtoons, pictures, and clip arts, which we have borrowed from the various sources. And some of these sources are this. If I do not, presentation has also plagiarized. Here is the list of a picture of our team taken a couple of years back, and along with Professor Katare, my collaborator, and so many postdocs, research scholars, and the MPharm students. And this is for you. Thank you very much. And I would anticipate any questions.
Sure.
And if time does not permit, I would, you can share my email, and that's bsboob@gmail.com, and they can send their queries to that email as well. I would love to respond to those queries as well. Or you can share from the chat box, any queries. I would love to answer.
Sure, sir. Since you have a very busy schedule, I would take only one of the query
Yeah.
raised by the participant. Uh, Mr. Anish has asked that once we start our research publication, so what should be the target? It should be a simple journal, or it should have a high impact journal. We should target what type of journal we should target
We should
to
always
start.
target, yeah.
High.
Depends upon, the quality of the paper. You have to, before publishing, you have to carry out the SWOT analysis of your paper. What quality of work does it contain? You know, what novelty does it hold? What innovativeness it does it hold? Whether it is complete and yet terse, whether it is meticulously, systematically arranged. How could it enrich the science when it is published? So, and then once you have noted down the strengths and weaknesses, then you look for opportunities. Which are the journals available? What kind of journals tend to publish such research or review articles? And then start discuss amongst your co-authors and start investigating. And and let's not be bogged down by the peer review process. Many times, the because the submissions are increasing, and competition is very stiff, and many times your articles are getting returned for gross revision. So this is an opportunity to polish your work and answer to the queries, and include some value additions into your article, and get it published finally. Yeah, if your work is rejected, you can try it other journals. So keep trying. That is the word. Practice.
Thank you, sir. We are really blessed to have you here in this FDP, sir. There are so much appreciations are coming from all the participants, and then few queries are also there. We will share with you, sir, those queries.
Certainly.
And
I see Dr. Gopinath.
yes,
From
yes, sir.
in South India.
Sir,
He was
we
here.
have participants from 22 states, sir.
Yeah. Tirupati, he's from Tirupati. He had been,
Yes.
a participant over here too.
Okay.
So,
So,
wish
thank you
you all the
again.
best, and please
Thank
do
you very
share
much, sir.
the queries. I'll try to answer them at my earliest convenience.
Sir, this is our very little appreciation and gratitude. We
Thank you
will
so much.
forward you the hard copy of the certificate, sir. Thank
Wow,
you very much.
great. Thank you. Commendable efforts. Keep propagating science.
Sure,
Keep
sir.
illuminating people, and in this process, we all would be illuminated ourselves as well. Thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to talk to the
No,
younger
sir,
people.
we are really blessed because you have
Thank
accepted our
you.
invitation and you are gracing our FDP, our FDP. So we will be in touch, and we constantly seek your guidance and motivation, sir, throughout our sojourn in research and in professional as well as in personal life. Thank you very
Thank you
much,
so
sir.
much. Your
Thank you.
words. Yeah, right. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye, sir. Thank you. So over to you, Shivani.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time to take a break for lunch and we will gather back at 2:30. You can leave the meeting and can rejoin by using the same link. All participants are requested to please rejoin in time. You can leave. Thank you.